Good afternoon. Today we are working on CO3. I can order rational numbers and identify opposites and absolute values. So we're still working with those rational numbers, but we're just working with the opposite and absolute values. So we're going to see what that looks like. So first things first is we need to have our definitions. What is the absolute value? Absolute value is the distance of a number from zero. So how far it is from zero. So if we're looking at our number line, so look down here at the number line, here's 0. I'm going to look at -5 and say, how far is it from 0? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away from 0. So the absolute value would be 5. Over here, 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away from 0. Its absolute value is 5. Notice how it doesn't matter which side of the 0 we're on. What's the sign going to be? It's going to be a positive. Okay, so it's 5 away from 0. It doesn't matter if it's -5 or it's +5. We're counting how far away from 0 we are. So it's always going to be positive. So hint, absolute value will always be positive. You cannot have a negative absolute value. Then we have opposites. Opposites are numbers that are the same distance from 0. So they have the same absolute value. So when I was talking about -5 being 5 away from 0 and 5 being 5 away from 0, they are opposites of each other because they are both 5 away from 0. So -5 and +5 are opposites of each other. Can -4 and 3 be opposites of each other? No, because they're a different number away from 0. They have to have the same absolute value. So it's the same integer with a negative and with a positive. -5, 5. Opposites. So another term for the opposite of a number is its additive inverse. Now that sounds kind of a little confusing, but you might see those terms like when you take the math test and they say, what's the additive inverse? Well, additive means adding the opposite, inverse. So the inverse is your opposite. So an additive inverse is what do I add to it and then I get 0. So if I have -5, its additive inverse is its opposite number. -5 plus 5 gets me to the 0. So additive inverse means you're just adding its opposite so you can get to that 0. This is because a number's opposite is whatever you can add to it in order to make 0. For each value, A to F, labeled on the number line, you're going to write the value of the number, its opposite, and its absolute value. For each letter G to K, plot its value on the number line, then write its opposite and absolute value. So let's look at A. So here's our A. We need to know its opposite and absolute value. So I'm going to find A on my number line right here. What is the value of A, Evelyn? -5. So what is, if A is -5, what is its opposite? 5. What is -5's absolute value? Alexis? 5. Now, when you take the math test, you're going to see absolute value written in a different way. They might not say absolute value or AV. You're going to see a straight line, your number, and a straight line. Those two straight lines means absolute value. So when you see two straight lines, not parentheses, two straight lines, it means you need to take the absolute value of that number. So when you see this, it means the same thing as absolute value. So every year, I have somebody come back from the math test say, I don't know what those two lines meant. Okay. So this is a good time to just make mental notes. When you see the two lines, straight lines, one on each side of your number, it means absolute value. What if it was a positive number? What if we see those two lines around a 7? What is 7's absolute value? Evelyn? 7. Because that's how far away from 0 it is. The absolute value is always that positive number. Doesn't matter if our inside has a negative or a positive, your absolute value is going to be a positive. Okay. Let's see, I'm gonna scroll my page up. So we did a practice one with the A. Let's look at our G. 1 2/3. I need to plot that on the number line. Where would I put G on the number line? 1 2/3. What two numbers am I going to put it in the middle of? Audrey?
1 and 2.
Yeah, because it's 1 2/3, so we know it's bigger than 1, but it's less than 2. 2/3 is bigger than a half. So I'm going to put it around here. It doesn't have to be precise and exactly this is where 2/3 is, but you have to think it through. I wouldn't want to put it right next to the 1, because 2/3 is going to be closer to that 2. So I'm going to put that there, and then I'm going to put the letter for G. Now I'm going to go and say, okay, what is the opposite of 1 2/3? What would its opposite be, Priya? -1 2/3. And what would its absolute value be, James?
1 and 2/3.
1 2/3. It seems like working with absolute values and opposites it sounds big and a little scary, but it's really not. Okay? Opposite is if it was a positive, it's going to be a negative. If it was a negative, it's going to be a positive. Okay? Same place on the number line, same number. It's just the opposite sign. Absolute value is going to be that number, positive. There's never a negative absolute value. It's always going to be positive because you're just counting how far away from 0 it is. Doesn't matter if we're going to the left or to the right of the 0. Then we have some questions to answer. Well, first let's look at our triangle here. Remember, the further to the left you go on the number line, the smaller your value is. Check letter J. Is your point on the left side of -4? So when we're plotting -4.1, be careful on which side of the -4 you're going to put it. So if this is -4 and you need to plot -4.1, which side would the 0.1 put it at? Is it gonna, oh, you just mark it on your number line. I love that we got the hands up because we know. But this is a stop and think. Make sure you're graphing it correctly on the number line. Is it gonna be closer to going towards -5 or is it gonna be going towards -3? Do you have a question?
Well, no, I'm just making sure it goes down towards the 5, right?
I'm not going to give the answer because I want you thinking it through, okay? The bottom, we have questions to answer, so you need to read those questions and you're going to problem solve. Use your own logic to write down your answers for those. So you're going to problem solve and find your answers for that. Remember, at 1 o'clock, so a little before 1, we're going to be packing up. So that way, if we go right until 1:30 with the soccer shootout, we're going to be packed up in the room and we can just come and grab our stuff. If you finish your math, it's just this one page. You're going to work on the religion. We have the 3 paragraphs of religion to do and answer those study guide questions. So answer your questions in religion, and then you can work on the math packet. You can work on practice work so we can do retakes tomorrow. But at about 5 to 1, we're going to stop and pack up so we're ready for the soccer shootout. I'm going to stop my recording. If you are at home, listening at home, we hope you are well and we hope to see you soon. Have a good day.